The thing I found interesting about this is if you were asked to speculate who would live in a cleaner, tidier house, would it be Boris Johnson, him of the ruffled hair and slightly shambolic suit?
Ruffled hair.
Or would it be Theresa May, who always looked pristine and well put together?
Theresa May, and actually, the criticism I understood of why they spent all this money on this mad wallpaper, £225, was because his wife didn't like the John Lewis look that Theresa May had introduced. And it would have been John Lewis and very nice and clean and tidy.
Yeah, but now, apparently, Kevin, John Lewis is akin to decorating a crack den.
Well, that's a line they retail. I've never noticed.
Maybe that should be in the Christmas ad
ad
campaign this year.
I'm offended the way they're talking about Uncle John like that.
Yeah, well, I'm a big John Lewis fan.
People aspire to have John Lewis houses and be able to afford the prices, and it's solid middle class.
Would you like to hear Gavin Barwell, Theresa May's ex-Chief of Staff's comment on this?
Yes.
I need my glasses because it's a long one. He said, no. No. He just said no. And even Daniel Finkelstein was also rather doubtful too. Yeah. But it's not like Boris Johnson to, maybe
have
change the truth a little
varying
bit,
recollections.
Yeah,
well, his grip on the truth hasn't strengthened in his time out after he was booted away for lying. Yeah,
you do wonder how chaotic it was when he was there. Children as well, young children, a dog, and he is shambolic personally.
I just can't imagine Theresa May living in a crack den.
No.
But perhaps there's a side of Theresa May we just don't know about.
If it is, I'd love to read the book and see the film. I mean, the great revelation about Theresa May.
We've known her for a long time. She's the prime of Miss Jean Brodie. She is so prim and proper.
Yes. Right, who is the natural successor, then, to Boris Johnson, to Theresa May? We had one contender in the Tory leadership contest knocked out yesterday. It was the sort of, I'd say, mild-mannered Tom Tugendhat, maybe too mild in terms of profile to eventually end up in the final two. So we've got Robert Jenrick, Kemi Badenoch and James Cleverly, who you're tipping
I've been tipping for quite a while now. Here's what's so difficult to predict with these MPs, because there's another vote today which will take them down to 2. Yeah. I've said before, it is the most duplicitous electorate in Western Europe. Tom Tugendhat was telling people in the Commons yesterday, if everybody who said they'll support me does so, I'm through comfortably. And I said to his people, he didn't believe them, did he? He didn't really believe Tory MPs were telling the truth. And, in fact, his vote went back. He was way behind. So Tom was told porkies by Tory MPs who say, I'm going to vote for you. I'm going to vote for you because if that candidate gets through, you think, I had their support, preferment for me.
I would have thought Tommy Tugendhat, former army officer, they call him sometimes Tommy Tugboat, would have been quite a good choice, but he's out. James Cleverly will almost certainly, the former Home Secretary, former Foreign Secretary, almost certainly now be in the final 2 when it goes to the ballot of the 160,000 people in the Conservative Sec. But it's who do you get against him? Because some surveys show, as one Conservative home shows, if he's up against Robert Jenrick, the right-winger now, banging on about the European Convention on Human Rights, he beats him. But if he's up against Kemi Badenoch, the former business secretary, he loses. So if you're a Cleverly supporter and you're organising it, you want Jenrick to be in, so then do you ask some of your supporters to vote for Jenrick, not Badenoch?
And this is an electorate who really will tactically vote.
They will.
Yes,
they will.
But it's interesting, is it? So Cleverly went up.
He almost doubled.
And nearly got to the crucial 40 votes he needed.
He did.
Badenoch went up a little bit. She went up 2. But Jenrick, who was the early favourite, has gone down. So on a momentum basis, you would probably argue it would be Badenoch and Cleverly, but not if they're voting tactically.
And they will vote tactically.
But you think, right, Badenoch had that big row over saying, maternity rights are excessive. She denies saying it, but it's there. You can listen to the film and that. But then Jenrick's had a big problem where he because he so hates the European Convention of Human Rights, his entire world is revolved around hating it. He claimed that British special forces in Afghanistan were committing war crimes and executing people rather than capturing them because the European Convention of Human Rights might free him. Actually, it doesn't apply to Afghanistan, the European Convention of Human Rights. it's, you know, Afghanistan, the Geneva Convention does, humanitarian law, or other international laws do, but he's so obsessed by the European Convention of Human Rights, I think he's frightened off some of his own side.
I just wonder if I can ask, there is another story that I wonder whether it might play into Robert Jenrick's campaign. And this is that the UK population has seen its largest annual increase in size since comparable data began in the early 1970s. Now, this people will be perhaps not surprised about, but what's interesting in these figures is that deaths outnumbered births
for the first time in donkey's years.
Right. If more of us are dying than being born, then net international migration is the biggest contributor to the increase in population size.
And the population is growing faster than ever before. And the worry is it's the impact on housing, on social cohesion is a really big issue, and schools and wages. It's a big problem. But he's only got a few hours now to play that card.
Yeah. The population is estimated to have risen by 1% in the year to June 2023, and that is the largest annual percentage increase since
we're having a big city. We're growing by the size of a big city every year. This country can't cope with it.
And the counter-argument is public services would collapse if we didn't have people coming to work when the domestic born-here population is ageing, so fewer people are working. Because, as you say, more people are dying than being born. It's about the level of increase. You wouldn't continue that level of increase, say, over 20 years, but then we probably won't anyway. There were certain reasons why it surged. I know Brexit was supposed to cut it, and it never did, and it's much higher now than when we were in the European Union with free movement.
Yes.
But there have been influxes of Ukrainians, Hong Kong Chinese. So there are
I think
reasons.
it's China, India, Pakistan and Nigeria are the four biggest countries that...
Well, there will be a fall because the last government changed the rules on visas for people coming in, for carers, that sort of thing, and students, families. But I just think this is going to be a big problem for this Labour government. We can't carry on like this. It's too much.
But no, it's going to fall because controls have already been introduced. But these are not people on small boats. If anyone's watching and got concern about that, that's about 30,000, 40,000.
Well, that's
it's not that figure. That's
legal migration.
Yeah, it is legal.
I want to move on now. We're going to go to the front page of the Daily Telegraph. They say the Telegraph understands that the government officials have asked one of Britain's top pension providers to assess the impact of cutting the tax-free lump sum to £100,000, a third of the current limit. So what happens right now is you can have as much as you like in your pension pot, but you can only take the tax-free lump sum. The rest is taxed. 268,000, and there's talk that in the budget it's going to be cut to 100,000, which would be large revenue raising. There's been a lot of flag that there's going to be something on pensions. This looks like it's going to be it. I mean, the truth is you have to have over 400,000 in your pension pot before this affects you, so it's only going to affect wealthier people. Will it happen?
Well, it will be perceived and played by the Tories as, here we go, another attack on pensioners. I know you're not... That's
very different to the winter fuel market, to be fair.
Very different.
It is, but a lot of people will have made their pension planning on the fact that they're going to take out their 25% when they get to a certain age. What is it, when you're 55? And they will
go up.
They will have planned it, and this will be chaotic. And I think there'll be a huge outcry.
I think... Look,
and again, it wasn't in the manifesto.
I'm always wary when you hear figures, but about something like £27, £28 billion a year spent by the Treasury on pension tax relief. The bulk of that goes to highest earners. And you could see, as you say, you've got to have more than £400,000 in your pension pot to be affected here. I think they say it's going to be one in five, taking out that 25% up to a maximum of... 270,000, 268,000. I can see a case for it, but I'm not saying it's going to happen because it says an assessment. And what you do when you're drawing up your budget, of course, is you look at the impact of all sorts of different policies, and then you put them all together and decide what you're going to do.
When that money comes out, people often spend it in the economy. They might get a new kitchen, do a new bathroom.
They bank it.
This government wants to create...
At that sort of level, you'll be just taking the tax-free allowance and putting it in something else. The problem with a story like this, I'm not criticising the fact, is those people who are in this situation will be in panic when they read this, that especially if you're age over 55, when you can take that tax-free lump sum now, and people may well rush to take the tax-free lump sum because of the risk of it being dropped, which can cause skewing effects. So we don't know. There is absolutely no confirmation whether this will happen or not, but it is the front page of the Daily Telegraph.
And that would be well-sourced, that piece, and it's clearly something
What's an assessment?
Looking at. The Chancellor's looking at it.
Definitely looking at. But I think pension changes normally come in the next year. So, so if you get a budget on October the 30th, it's more likely it'll say from next April.
Well, she might do.
While fuel duty, alcohol duty are almost immediate, aren't they?
But
it's one of those.
There will be
nothing
to stop it coming in immediately. They've got a majority of 168.
It's quite tough to put it in. It just depends on how you choose to do it. The last change we had was when the lifetime allowance was got rid of, so you could have as much as you like, and this new rule about capping the tax-free lump sum was put in its place. I mean, there's always a rule that you can do rules. We've seen it before on capital gains and stamp duty, that they come in the next day. But I think it's unlikely.
And they increased how much you can put in tax-free from 40 to 60,000 a year. That was a big jump. I think as long as you earn less than 250,000 a year. Hardly anybody is affected by that, but I can see there are some people, they always say it's going to be doctors or it's always going to be head teachers. Most of them are not getting the benefit. But you're going to spend money, how are you going to spend it? You've got winter fuel allowance to, if they could find it. Look, if you did that, and then you used the 2 billion raised to then cover the 1.4 billion cost of the winter fuel allowance, I would think that was a good move.
Take some of the political pressure off themselves. Well, talking about the winter fuel allowance, 4 in every 5 pensioners who are living below or just below the poverty line are going to be in line to lose their winter fuel payment. Age UK has done analysis on this in the absence of official government analysis. Of course, 10.7 million UK pensioners are going to lose the benefit, and 1 in 4 of them live in poverty. So the charity found that 80% of UK pensioners aged 80 and over living in poverty or just above the poverty line are no longer going to receive the benefit. It's like a sort of daily a problem for the government, because we've been talking about this budget on October the 30th ever since they came in. We've had all this speculation, including now about possible wealth taxes on pensions. But every single day they are being bashed with you are making pensioners pay. And now Age UK has stepped into the breach and said it's actually going to affect the poorest.
This is an apolitical charity that's been working with old people for a very long time, saying, essentially, they're going to have to choose between heating and eating. Who'd have thought it 3 months into a Labour government?
So every time we even mention it, we get lots and lots of comments. So here are some examples. Susan, my dad has asbestosis and has to stay warm. If he gets a cold that leads to a chest infection, he will die. Why should people who can work but choose not to get the payment? Referring to the fact that this is now going to be means tested and will only apply to those who are on pension credit. V says, I'm seriously scared. I have arthritis, diabetes, heart conditions, asthma, several other medical conditions. How am I going to manage? Sharon and Chris, we're pensioners. And Sharon says, I was diagnosed with breast cancer. My husband, also a pensioner, diagnosed with bladder cancer and prostate cancer. We have small workplace pensions, along with our state pension. Of course, that puts them over the limit for pension credit, which means they won't be able to get...
And the moment you go over the limit, you lose all the amount, whether it's 200 or 300 pounds you're getting.
It's not tapered.
Not tapered, so taken away gradually.
You lose a lot more than that. Pension credit's worth £3,900. It gives you access to council tax benefit, a free TV licence if you're age over 75. It gives you access to dental care. It gives you access to call it a gateway benefit.
Yeah, but these aren't people who have previously claimed pension credit.
There's a hard cut-off on pension credit, but winter fuel... Look, I've been probably at the forefront of the championing 11,400 is too low a means test. There is something, though. Lisa Nandy, the Secretary of State for Culture, is on the programme. Last time I was on the show, they weren't doing a government round. I've been waiting to talk to the government about this for a long time.
Good luck to her.
I have a few questions.
Good luck to her.
That's coming later in the show.
I can imagine what she thinks privately.
Yes,
I'll be interested to see what she says publicly.
Say again, at the Labour conference and the TUC conference, I never found anybody who supported it.
Oh, no.
Not anybody.
Oh, no, I was in...
Unless you get a government minister who has to trot out the line, and they're trotting out the line.
We'll speak to Lisa Nandy at 8:30, and we will speak to you both straight afterwards.
Looking forward to it.
For your analysis.
Thank you, guys. Last week, the energy price cap rose by 10%, meaning most people, 80% of homes in England, Scotland and Wales, will pay 10% more on your bills.
Well, many of you are worried about how you're going to pay for that increase this winter. Plus, there's a lot of confusion about whether you should switch now to a fixed tariff on your energy bills. Don't worry, Martin is here to help. And we've also invited 3 viewers into the studio. They're going to get a Martin Lewis makeover of their energy bills. So let's introduce them to you. We have VJ Jane from Dartford in Kent, who was on a fixed dual tariff which ended in April, and since then his bills have shot up. Next to VJ, Kat Sims, busy mum from South Harrow, been on a standard variable rate with the same company for the past few years. What does she do now? And Phil Daly from Loggerheads in Staffordshire has seen his energy bills double from what they were 2 years ago. So, Martin, they all need your help. What's the plan?
Well, I'm going to go over and say hello. Hello. What I want to do now is I'm going to start you off. So the first thing we need to do is we need to gather the data. The best way to do that is to go onto a comparison site. We want one that's whole of market by default. In other words, it doesn't hide tariffs that don't pay them. So we're going to put you on one of those. I've got wonderful Sally, who's part of my personal team, who's going to be going through that with you. So we're going to gather that and we're going to see exactly what your particular needs are, because who's cheapest for you depends on where you live and how much you use. There is no one cheapest. It is always on where you live and how much you use. You two are both on the standard variable, aren't you?
Yeah. Yes.
How long have you been on that? How long have you... That's the price cap. You're on the price cap. So you went up 10% last week. How long have you been on that?
Since early in the year, about April time.
And you came off a fix?
Correct.
What about you, Kat?
I'm going to say I honestly don't know. I think a couple of years, maybe.
So, OK. So since the energy crisis, have you switched at all?
No, we've not done anything. I have not even had a chance to think about it.
So, look, very simple to anybody out there who's wondering if you're on the price cap. If you haven't moved to a special tariff or switched company, you are on a price cap tariff. If you're not on a fix, in most cases, you're on a price cap tariff. Now, Phil, you've got slightly different ideas, haven't you, about what you want?
Yeah, I was looking at the Agile tariff.
You're with Octopus, are you, then?
Yeah.
OK, so the Agile tariff is quite a sophisticated tariff where the price changes every day. I still want you to do a comparison, because what's important to understand is we shouldn't be comparing to what you're on, the Agile tariff, which is a special tariff. We should compare to what are the cheapest deals out there at the moment. Should you do that or the Agile tariff, not should you stay where you are? Because apathy is not allowed on this sofa, people. We will be acting. Susanna.
Thanks very much indeed, Martin. We are going to get each of the 3 viewers their own laptop so that you can have a look at all the information and make a decision. And Martin Lewis will be analysing all of that information in about 20-25 minutes, so don't miss that, especially if you're in the same boat. Apathy, have you changed? Have you fixed? Have you switched?
I'm with a company that switches me.
Not anymore. Most of them are switched off. Are you sure?
Yeah, no, they are. Yeah.
I'll talk to you off. Sceptical.
If I'd have known you're going to be here, Martin, I'd have brought me bills and readings in. You could have done it for me, you know.
Yeah.
You'll be sitting in the green room, you can watch. If you've got any questions, I'll talk to you.
But it is important, because there is a loyalty penalty, which I think is absolutely wrong, but there is a loyalty penalty. You stick with the same company, you end up getting...
Well, let's just do this really simply. The average bill is around £1,700. Some people pay more, some people pay less. A 10% rise on that is around 170 quid. If we can prevent that, we can prevent that.
Well done.
I mean, we're talking about the winter fuel payment being 200-300 quid. Well, I mean, you are effectively ripping yourself off if you don't act. Yeah. Well, my biggest problem on this, actually, when we talk winter fuel, is we can help all of those people who are capable of helping themselves. But those, you know, the 90-year-old grandpa with onset dementia who's never going to be able to switch on a switching service is the people who's going to pay more than I do to boil a kettle, and is also the type of person who isn't going to be claiming pension credit to get winter fuel allowance because the claiming is difficult. So it compounds everything. The people who can't help themselves are the ones who are hurting the most at the moment.
It's terrible.